sitting here, or am I good?
No.
Don. Yeah, nice to meet you. Did I enjoy myself?
Yeah.
You're about to enjoy it.
Okay, I will. I went to the Heck breakfast this morning.
Okay.
And then my next event was this.
Okay.
So my second event, yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from here. From Vegas, yeah. So. What about you guys? Are you all from the same place?
Everyone's from the Phoenix area, Arizona.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you're.
I'm interested.
Oh, okay.
I'm interested in libertarian values, libertarian philosophy. Huh? Oh, of course not. I'm a patriot.
Liar. Liar. Anybody who goes back to the excuse lying. You smoke weed every day, right? Every day, all day.
Yeah, I would never do something like that. Of course not. Yeah, I don't know if I could sit at the same table as someone who would engage in. Yeah.
I thought if you were Colorado.
Oh yeah.
No, maybe it's hard. But it's hard to get. Yeah, I've had to.
So I'm guessing you're all involved in. Are you heavily involved in like libertarian politics? Yeah.
Yeah, they're.
We're along for the ride.
Oh, okay.
They're really.
Okay, but it's weird because
Yeah, you say it.
but I smoke weed. She doesn't. And
Are they just along because they smoke weed? Like is that why? Okay, yeah, thanks. So how involved are you guys? Like, what do you do? And
We'll take shares.
okay. Okay, AFP, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. We're involved
Oh, no, I'm good. I probably will. Hold on. Yeah, I'll eat in a minute. I'm like kind of full right now, honestly. So I was just wandering around for like the last 2 hours eating. So
Yeah, what about?
What should have been? Not very fun.
I never knew that after that. Better to cut it off.
It's okay. It's okay. I don't really care.
Because we ate a lot of food.
I know.
It was my bad though.
I told you.
I don't know. I probably was wrong.
I remember what you saying.
Oh.
Yeah, we were seeing the song. Yes. No, you didn't.
Yeah, because Jeff was like, hey, I got everything. Bro, they want to go to
No, you're not.
what album remember? Yeah, I don't remember. I wouldn't think. Yeah, I think he still is. I mean, there's a table. This should be our DJ with this. This is coffee.
Yeah, just see the way they're looking.
Yeah, he really pulled off an upset in his race in 2014.
Okay.
Because, like, you know, even with, like, you know, the election year being the way it was, his district in particular, like, is really Democratic. So, yeah, so he pulled off, like, a definite upset victory. So did you guys like come because you're interested in libertarianism, or did you come to like those three? Like, did you just come to Vegas? Yeah. Like, I mean, like, well, I know you guys are. I was talking about like your friends. I was just curious. Yeah.
No, the thing is, I think part of it is
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like that's why you gotta like I try to like
oh yeah.
And I think at the same time like it opens the doors.
So are you all in college or?
Really not.
Hey guys, we're going to get started here in about 3-5 minutes.
What did you ask yesterday? You have that song right there. Yeah.
No, I probably will. I'm just going to separate it. I'll probably eat ranch. I don't know. I have weird eating habits.
Well,
I've always been told that. Okay. I mean, I don't belch or anything, like, at the table. But
that was an accident. Yeah, I didn't know that one was coming up, right? Usually, you gotta have a belch on it.
belch. I actually don't. I've actually never been good at that. Well, I don't know about that.
Alright. Just eat yourself.
You're trying to have it. Okay.
Yeah.
is cool.
I mean, you can have to check it out.
Heard it.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be checking out. What? Where are you? Were you at the lunch yesterday? I don't know where
Yeah, yeah. Huh? The lunch yesterday? No, I wasn't.
You guys can pay attention. We're going to get started here. So the first person I want to introduce is Steve Sanson. Steve Sanson's a good friend of mine. He has a very, very, very cool organization called Veterans in Politics. How many of you guys are local here in Las Vegas or Nevada? And you've probably seen his emails or heard him. He's a bulldog. There's right and wrong. And with Steve, he always chooses right. He holds people accountable. He's one of the few people that holds judges accountable. I mean, it's scary. He carries around probably 3 or 4 guns with him at all times. He's definitely a wanted man. But here's the thing. He goes after everybody that does things wrong, whether it's judges who rule in the wrong way, or if it's cops that are corrupt. He'll call them out. Not just a little bit like, oh, maybe we should look at this officer. Absolutely not. He's a bulldog with him. He gives facts, and he takes it home at all times. Now, Veterans of Politics, let me tell you about this organization. He'll tell you a little bit more about it, but basically he's trying to get more veterans involved into the political process. Now, I think this should be an absolute no-brainer. How many prior service are in here? How many people served in the military? Only a handful. Thank you for your service. I too am prior service, and when you understand the psychology as to why somebody would sign up for the military and put our lives on the line in this country, it's because we're protecting all of our freedoms, all of our rights, everything that we stand for. And so you would think it would be a natural fit where after you're done serving in the military, you continue to serve your country by getting involved with the political process. But that's not usually the case, because most people get burned out. They're upset with what actually happens when they see firsthand the type of bureaucracy and why we're at these wars. We start questioning things. They actually get disinterested. What Steve does is he brings them back into the fold and gets them more active in politics. So without any further ado, Steve Sanson, President of Veterans in Politics.
It's an honor to be here this afternoon. When I wrote this speech, I thought it was in the morning, but then when I knew I had to give it, it was going to be in the afternoon. I would like to thank Brett Pajunas for giving me this opportunity. I would like to talk to you a little bit about my time in the military. I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in '85, honorably discharged in '91 after serving in the first Gulf War. I lost several of my brother Marines in that war. Because of this, I decided not to extend my time in the Marine Corps. However, I love the Corps, and I love what it stood for, and I love being a part of a brotherhood. Upon my release from the military, I couldn't handle civilians, constant road rage. The sense of brotherhood I had in the military was gone. I masked my pain with violence, alcohol, and sex. At any time, I could have taken a different path in life. Going cold turkey wasn't working for me. And I recognized that. So I entered the United States Army to relax. No disrespect to Brett Pajunas. I was a member of the Army from '92 to '98 on active reserve and inactive service. In 1998, I started to dabble into politics. By doing so, I realized that I can't direct my anger and pain towards corrupt politicians.
Yay.
But I also needed to find a sense of brotherhood. So I became a member of the VFW and the Marine Corps League and later elected chaplain for both organizations. In 2004, I was campaigning for the Las Vegas City Council. While campaigning for that seat, I was asked by the president of Veterans in Politics to be their media spokesman. In 2005, after a public skirmish, I was elected the president of Veterans in Politics. Let me read the mission statement of this organization. To educate, organize, and awaken our veterans and their families to select, support, and intelligently vote for those candidates whom would help create a better world, to protect ourselves from our own government and a culture of corruption, and to be the political voice for those in other groups who do not have one. I was like, wow, now here's a group for me. Now I have a vehicle. I found something that I could use to direct my pain and anger in a positive way and continue to serve my community. In order for any group to gain credibility, you have to do things that has never been done. So the first thing we started to do is to invite candidates to our endorsement interviews with a panel of folks, veterans and non-veterans, asking great questions with a moderator, videotape these interviews, place them on social media, open it up to the public, and present our endorsements to the candidates at their own events. We even funded our own radio program that has been on the air for over 10 years in an effort to reach a larger audience to support our endorsed candidates, educate the community on elected officials, educate the community on laws, educate the community on public corruption, educate the community on wasteful spending of tax dollars, and the list is endless. You might say, why would a veterans group be interested in endorsing candidates? Shouldn't they send care packages out to our troops or help them with their VA claims? No, no, no. We're different. We endorse candidates that would better help our community and our veterans. Building relationships with elected officials is key for the betterment of our community. And by voting. By doing this, our organization has moved into a lot of different areas. For example, our members were asked to testify on the Veterans Court Bill. In 2009, that became law. When we spearheaded a campaign to have the municipalities and the district courts in Nevada follow the law and enforce the Veterans Court Treatment Program, our organization has testified on many different bills that became law in this state, including policy changes with our law enforcement. We see the worst of man and the best of man. I can remember when the Veterans Court Bill was written, and there was a clause that said, for non-violent offenders. I said, that's ridiculous, and here's why. Our government trained us with aggression to go to war and destroy the enemy. Violence should be part of Veterans Court. I was told, let's just get the court to become law, and then it would be amended in the next session. But it took 2 sessions for that amendment to come to fruition. Trust in a politician. That's a joke. In the 11 years I have been part of this organization, we have helped countless members of this community. We have formed chapters across the country, including Canada. Right now we're working on Australian American Samoa, as I stand here today, in an effort to make sure that the people that are in office don't forget our veterans. Right now, in this legislative session, we have several bills that we have testified for. One is to protect service-connected disability benefits from being used as alimony in family court. That bill now sits on the governor's desk. Another is to fund a Veterans Court Coordinator on the District Court. Another is to mandatory have de-escalation training for police officers, body cameras for police officers, stoppage of taxpayers' dollars given to police officers that solely work for a union, 12-month cap on paid administrative leave, and the fund victims' families of controversial police shooting that end up in death. If I fail to mention, we also influence voters as to why a politician needs to be removed from office. Most of what we do is controversial. Every year, we make friends and lots of enemies. But in order to make change, you have to take drastic measures and make a stand. Sometimes you're standing alone. But it's worth it in the end. Loyalty is one of the items they teach us in the military, and I wish it was taught in grammar school. Because that item is so ingrained in me that I do this for no pay. However, I am 70% disabled. The reason I'm explaining all of this to you, because I'm a strong believer that everybody was placed on this earth for a purpose. Some of us go through our entire lives and never found that purpose. I believe that changing the heart and minds of people is my purpose. It would give me great pleasure if this country recognized our military veterans as a protected class. Without our veterans, democracy in this country would never, ever exist. There are major problems when our returning veterans arrive home. The military veteran suicide rate in this country is 35 per day. A lot of that is blamed on post-traumatic stress disorder. Some would even think those numbers are higher, and others might think the numbers are lower. But the average is 35 a day. 35 veterans that make their way through death and destruction return home to their own country that they protected and killed themselves because we failed them. The military veteran, on an average, waits 4 years for their disability claims to be approved because they're waiting for us to drop dead. There are 140,000 military veterans in our nation's prison today. Think about that. 140,000 men and women that we train to defend this country is behind bars. There are 573,000 unemployed military veterans today. These are the folks that we spend tax dollars on to train them, and they can't even find a job when they come back to their own country. 42% of our veterans returning back from the current wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, that are married, end up in divorce. 42% end up in divorce. You want to know why? Because they're not the same person when they left and when they return back. They're different, extremely different. And their spouses can't handle it. Their kids can't handle it. Do I blame them? No. I was one of them. Let me remind you, it's the military veteran that cleans up all the problems a politician starts. But they're always forgotten at the end of the day, and they sacrifice the most. I would like to see a political party really take on veteran issues. What is disgusting to me is that some political parties don't recognize these issues until it's an election season. This has to stop, my friend. And I know standing up here, and I do a lot of speaking, some people get offended, and that's good. I like that. I like when you guys get offended at what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is the truth. So maybe that might open up a new dialect for you to change what's going on today. Speaking of change, now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker. He's a man that I've known for a number of years. He's good for veterans. Although he's not a veteran himself, but we won't hold it against him. He's also a military brat. Born and raised in Mesquite, Nevada, has always worked hard to not only take care of himself and his family, but to give back to his community. His commitment to public service is clear. He has served as the Mesquite Public Works Director, a member of the Virgin Valley Water District, as a member of the Mesquite City Council. He has served 2 terms in the Nevada State Assembly. He brings over 2 decades of distinguished public service experience to his campaign for Nevada's 4th Congressional District. A 5th-generation resident of Mesquite, his grandfather, check this out, folks, his grandfather was the first baby born in that town. You believe that? He knows the importance of building a strong, safe community for families. He and his wife have been married for 32 years. You can tell he doesn't have PTSD if he's married that long. And are the parents of 4 children. Let's have a big, warm round of applause for United States Congressman Preston Marty.
You know, it's hard to follow Steve because nobody can sound as rough as he does. I know he's actually kind of a pussycat if you get to know Steve. He's a unique individual. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Feel very privileged to be here to speak. I was elected to the 4th District in Nevada. I'm the guy here in Nevada that was never supposed to be in Congress. There was no chance that I was going to win this race. And here I am with the opportunity. And I think it is because people are fed up with what's going on today. People are tired of the politics as usual. They want to see things done. They want to see people work together. They want to see things accomplished. They want us to get back to those fundamental principles that our founding fathers so much benefited us with. That we've, over time, over the last 50, 60 years of my life, I believe that we've done everything we can to destroy it. I have a script here. I'm going to follow a little of it, but I kind of want to leave base a little bit. Just kind of tell you how I got to where I am. You know, all the while of doing public service, I also held a full-time job. The reason I ended up where I am is because I had great parents, great-grandparents, and great-great-grandparents that were very beneficial in my life. My parents raised me as a child, and my father was a guy that only had a 5th grade education. He's probably as smart as most people out here in this room, sorry to say, but he was very intelligent. He worked hard all his life to continue his education. The school of hard knocks, along with that real education of trying to learn. But he always used to tell me as a kid, and along with my mother, same thing. Son, don't come to me with a problem unless you got an answer how to fix it, because you sure as hell ain't gonna like the one that I got. Son, if you want the horse or the buggy to go where you want it to go, you got to take control of the reins. Stop sitting on the back of the saddle. Son, thou shalt not whine is the 11th commandment. son, you can do it and like it, or you can do it and hate it, either way you're going to do it. You know, so those are the founding principles that I grew up along with about 150 others like that. He was a very spiritual guy, but he had a challenge in his life, alcoholism. He died at a fairly young age in comparison to most. My mother even died younger. She died at the age of 44. I'm going to share a story with you about my mother and tell you a little bit about who I am and where I come from. My mother, not to my knowledge, never smoked a cigarette or drank a beer or did anything vile in her life, so to speak, to her body. But she died of cancer at the age of 44. She was a downwinder. What does that mean? You know, they used to do testing out here at Yucca Mountain. Over 1,000 detonations have gone off in this desert out here. And some would say, and I agree with them, there's not a better place to do it. Not a lot of people lived back then. But my mother passed away because of that. The reason I bring this up to you is she had a different outlook than most people do on life. On her deathbed, we were sitting there with my aunt. I was 20 years of age. My aunt was talking to us about how we ought to sue the federal government for taking my mother's life from downwinder. Now, keep in mind, you have your own views, you have your own opinions, but this is what kind of makes me as an individual. My mother was a 185-pound plus woman her whole life. But she was not overweight, she was strong, she could whip my dad anytime she wanted, and she did on a number of occasions. But with that being said, in her deathbed, she was about 85 pounds. We thought she was in a coma. We were sitting there talking, and my aunt's telling me to do this, how we should, because we got children in the home that are under the 5 to 8 to 12, brothers and sisters. I have 6 siblings to my mother, with my mother. And out of her deathbed, off her coma, she raises up. She says, "You kids do. I'll haunt your ass till hell freezes over." And she explained, she says, I may lose my life because of that testing, but she says, if I could lose my life along with all those lives, millions and millions of lives that were saved because of that nuclear bomb, so be it. That be my sacrifice. Don't take that patriotism away from me. So that kind of gives you a little idea about how I think. And I'll tell you, I wasn't going to violate my mother on that end. So, along through life, as you go along, I've been a very successful individual, had been blessed. And I believe because God looks after me. I believe in God. I believe in those founding principles. I believe that He wants us to be self-reliant, self-sufficient, and independent people. We are to govern ourselves, but we are also to treat our brother with kindness, generosity as we would be treated. But we're supposed to do those little acts that we can do for ourselves, by ourselves, the best we can. So I believe in a limited and efficient government. I believe that government wants you to need it so it can expand, it can grow, it can take over your everyday life. And that is damaging to our liberties and our freedoms as individuals. It's one of the worst things we can do is turn anything over or ask more and more of our federal government. Our founding fathers wanted us to talk about and deal with things at the state, local, and county level. And write it actually from the local, county, state, and federal level, in that order. Our founding fathers only give a certain amount of enumerated powers to the federal government. The rest were left to the states. Our states and our governors have given up that authority by lack of action, lack of taking back their authority. You know, I'm a big state rights individual. I believe that those first 10 amendments were there for a particular reason, and in order for a particular reason. Because I think our founding fathers knew the 10 most important things that were to maintaining a sovereign society, an independent society. And I think the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, was there. Number one, for the number one reason. And number two was there to make sure that we can protect and defend that. And the others fall right in order. So that's kind of where I come from. That's the kind of the beliefs I believe. I believe that out here in the West, and many of you may not be from the West, but I've spent a lot of time already, my first 120 days in Congress, educating my colleagues about the disadvantages we have in the West with the federal government retaining and holding 64% of our land in the West and over 81% here in Nevada. That may not bother many of you if you're not from the western states, but if you go back to 1828, give you a little history lesson, maybe you know it, maybe you don't. 1828, where's the West? Indianapolis, Illinois, Indiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Alabama, and Arkansas, along with Florida. 1828, those states did like other states that wanted to enter the Union. They turned their territories over to the federal government. What's supposed to happen at that time is every state got one section out of every 16 sections back at that time, and then the government was supposed to disperse those lands, sell those lands, utilize that money that they sold to those lands to be able to build up the military and take care of some of those enumerated powers. But those lands were all supposed to go back to the states. The federal government didn't want to do that. President Jackson stood up and said, folks, fair and equal footing doctrine. We're to be on fair and equal footing with all other states. So we have our state's properties for taxation, for education, for transportation, or whatever, commerce, whatever we want to do, any other thing we want to do with our state. That is the reason we're supposed to have our states back. Ironically, in 1864, we became a state. At that time, almost over the years, just recent years, we've only had about 87% of our property was with the federal government, so we have got some back over time, but not without a fight. But why do we have to fight for the property? That's economics. We're supposed to be laboratories of industry, competing one with another, providing those opportunities for our own states. So that's a big issue for me. Another big issue for me is one of the reasons I ran and decided to go ahead and run for Congress when all of us thought I could fail. I had one standing principle that still stands today. I believe that we have to balance the budget and reduce the deficit. I believe that people my age and older have caused this problem by our lack of inaction. We need a balanced budget amendment. We need to make sure that you youth out there that are well under the age of 30 or even under 40, you didn't cause this problem. I hope not, because we're really in trouble if you did. We changed that. I believe that the 47 freshmen, at least the Republicans, I've tried to get to know a few of the other Democrats, I don't know them all yet, but of the 47 Republican freshmen that were elected, I thought I would be kind of unique, one and only, because I'm a business guy. I'm not a career politician. I've owned a business for over 20 years. Been very successful. Like I said before, my father was a farmer and rancher. I don't think he made more than $10,000 or $15,000, $20,000 a year in his life. I never needed for anything. I had food in my belly, I had a roof over my head, and I had clothes on my back. But I wanted for lots of crap. That's what makes you. He taught me how to work. So for those things that I wanted, I ended up getting a little better education than he got. Worked hard, and worked harder, and worked harder, and had a successful business. At one time, I had close to a little over 300 employees by 2006. By 2007, I had less than 70. And I blamed that on the government, so I run the state legislature. Now I run for this. But I believe we can turn things around for this new 47 freshmen we've got, because I can guarantee you 44 of them are just like me. Now, if you like me, you like that kind of idea. Self-reliant, self-sufficient, independent people. Let the government do what it's supposed to do with those enumerated powers. Get the power back to the states. It's going to take some time, folks. It's not going to happen overnight. That's why you're here. Some of you are still young. Don't make politics a career. Live in the real world and be a difference at the same time. Like I said before, I run a business and I served my community the best I could at the same time. I believe that God helps us be tireless individuals, that He will give us the energy to do those things as long as they're righteous and just. I've often said, and I'm sorry if I offend people's ears because I talk just like my old man, but you know, I believe that I don't care if I die going to my grave being an asshole, but I want to be an honest asshole. That's who I am. So, we need to have real citizen government. This last election, I'm grateful for this last election because I think people are starting to wake up. I hope they don't get just a little bit worried between now and this next election. Because I believe that we can't afford another administration like we have today. We've lost more of our constitutional authority. We have a president in the White House that doesn't care about the Constitution. With his regulations that he comes up with, his executive orders that don't meet any type of criteria. But we have a hard job to do, but we got to be able to get a president that will work with Congress to turn this clock back as fast as we can. You cannot jerk the rug out from under people right off the bat because we've entitled people for way too long. But we do need to change the way things are done. We need to look at trying to have a solid Social Security and Medicare system. I think we just did an action. It was a bipartisan action. We have the Medicare dog fix, which has been fighting over it for 15 years. It's going to cost us a little money for a couple of years, but after that, it pays for itself. It will return dollars back. That's the kind of system we want. We just funded the Veterans Administration at a higher dollar than it's ever been funded. We didn't fund it as high as the president wanted to do it because he didn't know what he wanted to do with the dollars. We've told the VA what they have to do, and we want them to report and talk about it, show, and give us the examples of where they've utilized this money. Can you believe that hasn't been done all these years? There's no checks and balances. We just give people money in government, and you don't find out where it's going, what the performance is. We go ahead and give somebody a bonus. Now, as a business guy, do you think I'm going to give a bonus to every individual? I believe in giving the bonuses to those who are productive, that make a little difference in my company. That's what capitalism is about, and I believe that capitalism is a great thing. It's not the perfect thing. There's no system out there that's a perfect thing other than you yourself. You can develop to be a perfect person. And that's what it's about, being self-reliant, self-sufficient, independent. Work hard to be the best you can. You want to make a difference in this society? You young people, raise good, solid children. I was able to spoil my children, and I didn't. I got 4 wonderful children. Like I said, that's the reason I'm here. I'm self-serving. I'm here for my children. I don't want them to have to pay this debt. It's $18 trillion that you see on the debt, but unfunded liabilities are $127 trillion. I don't know about you guys, that doesn't compute this mind. Today, just on the $18 trillion, every taxpayer owes $154,000 apiece, and you haven't done anything yet, you young people. But that's sick. That's sick to me.
Yeah.
So we got to fight. This group needs to expand 100-fold, continue to grow, continue. Small groups can make a difference in this world. I had a quote by Martha Mead in there that she talked about. Remember off the top of my head, it talks about small groups can make a difference. They can actually change the world with smaller groups. So continue to grow, continue to do your part, become involved in your communities, raise good children. I want to talk about that in just a second with my children, just to give you an example of what I mean by good, solid individuals. As a person that was blessed with a prosperous business, I could have spoiled my children. I could have given them free education, sent them off to school, and I didn't. I kind of did it a little different way. I told my children, I says, you go to school and you pay for your first semester, and you get straight A's, I'll give you 100% back of that semester, that commercial tuition. You get 1 B, you get half. 1 B. You get 1 C, you don't get a damn thing. You know what? I had 3 children. One was summa cum laude, and 2 of them were magna cum laude. The other one didn't need an education. He works for Raytheon, smarter than all the rest. But he works hard. And he builds things that are genius. But some people have that ability, and I'm grateful to have one of those. Or to fall after his father. I don't know where that came from. But they all work hard. They're raising their own families. They're doing their own things. They will not be a drain on society the best they can. Hopefully they never have some disability that causes them to have to utilize that. But as a family, I've developed a family that we will support our children and our grandchildren. But much like my parents supported me, my grandfather told my dad once, he says, son, he says, your grandparents raised you because I was off working and I had a job to do to support the family. So I didn't get to know you well. By hell, let me have my turn to raise your children because you're off working doing your part. That's what it's about. We have challenging times, but that's part of life's experience. Learn from it. Enjoy it. It's a pleasure. People ask me today, how are you doing? Pretty damn good. I'm going to convince myself of it. And I do that on a daily basis. I convince myself that I'm enjoying the day. So if I could help anywhere along the line, I'm here for you. But you know what? Strengthen yourselves. Build yourselves up. Continue to do what you do. Support your neighbor. And who's your neighbor, by the way? Everybody in this world's your neighbor. Love them. Take care of them. In spite of their faults. Hell, I love Steve Fanson in spite of his faults. You know, he's a great guy. So, but I enjoy life. Thank you for the opportunity. It's a privilege to serve. It's one of the greatest privileges you can ever do to serve your fellow man. Enjoy it. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Oh yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Where else? Okay. She going to like there's also we also look at philosophy and then education now. Yeah. For how much is the body?
Hi, it was nice meeting you.
Yeah, you do. See you guys later.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah, I do.
It's that dependence.
I like learning more.
I don't get a job by earning a job. I have to find somebody that can get me a job with my parents.
Useful so far.
But these are the same people that probably got adopted into some of these Ivy League schools because of whatever it may be. Donating money here or there. Why hasn't anybody done something as simple as we've created a database like you're talking about for the medical stuff? We know that if you graduate with a degree in women's studies, the most you're ever going to make is cash. So we're never going to lend you any money to go to school for a degree that can never pay back the debt on that degree. Now, you want to do petroleum engineering? Okay, we're going to lend you $80,000. You want to do women's studies? Here's your check for $5.
Actually, they're working on it.
Are they?
I'm an IT manager for profit.
Right.
So we're basically the beta testing world.
Right.
And in our industry, you have to have a minimum of 60% placement rate.
Right.
Otherwise, we lose access to federal funding.
Okay.
Right. I mean, federal funding is 85 to 90% of every school, and they're already starting to sniff around.
But would this direct the federal dollars? So the federal dollars would adjust to the major?
Yeah, but you got to understand, the federal dollars are basically 4 out of $5 going into education. Nobody pays out of pocket for anything.
Okay.
They haven't increased. Veterans. That's what it is.
Right.
Student loans. Our federal government nationalized student loan industry.
Right.
That's now federal. Right. Now federal money. So, minority placement rates. To see the wage justifies the investment in federal they're leaning on the for-profit industry because of things like Carrington, some of the college. But a lot of Republicans are stepping forward and saying, well, it's and it's getting traction. So now even the state schools are starting to have to significantly spend.
Well, I won't be worried about. I don't think it'll go through until I start hearing some girls at Brown University start to bitch because their women's studies class they're not going to get the money for next semester or something.
I mean, most of those girls really have their takes on whatever because they're able to provide.
No, but I meant like I'm not going to. Well, that's the other thing. So you graduate from Brown and you got your degree in whatever. How are you going to assign a value to what the salaries are going to be compared to the person that went to the state school that had the same major? Right.
But what's on the student as well, college education, the average person makes $10 an hour. Never mind the kind of person that could get enrolled at Brown. That's not an average person in any school. But, well, okay, here we go, and maybe they'll location adjust it so that way everybody's going, right? Providence versus Providence instead of it's coming. And what's that the state schools want, state programs. And the federal government's also sort of looking to standardize testing for at the end of college.
So that what, like I'm going to have to take a math test?
Yeah, like an SAT. SATs.
Okay. In order to graduate from the college?
Yeah. To demonstrate that you learned something.
Yeah.
Why is this possible? Because the federal government now controls the income for higher education. So now the federal government is going to you now have a single every single school in the country to call up every single graduate and go, hey, Sarah, that's your grade. Oh, okay, cool. Hey, so now business owners have to write these letters to turn them in to the government to approve. So, yeah, we may have fewer lines.
No, my daughter, my youngest daughter.
That's like half my school. We've got 85 employees for 500 students. Too bad.
Basically, almost like the basic rating for my wife.
That's what they
my wife said for my wife. It's only allowed this that's like every time they sell them.
My favorite is, I don't know who it was, but somebody came out with some ratio of like, if you go to this college for the amount you pay for your tuition relative to what your major is going to be, like who gives you the best bang for your buck for your college. I was fascinated by the list and stuff. I went to Texas A&M and it was like super high on the list. I'm like, that's a pretty good deal. But like things like Harvey Mudd, I would have never thought. Some of the other ones, you know.
Yeah, down there in Pomona or something like that.
Yeah, John Jay, I think might have been on there or something. But yeah, it's like all these strange dynamics of like, how do you not just completely waste your money? And then they were upset. Well, why aren't these kids buying houses? You tell me. Yeah, I mean, like, how do you form a family? Like the biggest danger that's going on that everybody's kind of missing out on is everybody, because of Depression 2.0, didn't start a family and get married. So, all right, you know, we're gonna get married. You're the average woman. I'm the average guy's age, 28, 29. You're the average woman's age, 26, 27. This whole thing happens, and usually after about 2 or 3 years, we have our first kid. But because of all this, you didn't have the first kid. Now you're 36. We have one. Well, we would have had 2, but now the problem is you're 36 and you can't have another child because you're infertile. So, you know, you start following. We've had this whole crazy delay, and it's going to cause this weird demographic, like negative feedback loop. And it's going to be like an intergenerational thing. Yeah.
Chances are we probably don't have similar backgrounds. That's how we met. We're both college educated. We both have student loans.
Right.
It's not you have
35,000. Yeah, we got 75.
Now 75. Now we're paying 5, 6, 700 a month instead of Wall Street payments, instead of a house or whatever. Now we both have it because we both have.
I mean, I would really love to know, like, the push for women working. At the end of the day, though, if you really actually gave, I haven't seen the data, but if you went to so many women, let's say at age 30-something, and said, look, if you could have, would you rather just stay home with your kids and, you know, or whatever, you know, been like it was? I wonder how many would say yes relative to those that would, you know, because it's like, well, I couldn't do that before because of some sort of glass ceiling or whatever. How many of them would say, that was all bullshit, man. I just should have stayed home with my kids. Because I didn't, you know, if you don't make more than like 50, I think it's like $41,000 depending on where you live. and it doesn't make sense for you to keep the job relative to the child care and the extra car and the subsidiary costs that go along with. Yeah, like it's like don't even bother. It's like people with welfare. You know what I mean? Unless I can get a job making above X, I'm better off staying on the welfare.
Decide for themselves. Honestly, but I agree. I mean, it's not like housing. It's not like there's twice as much housing as there used to be, but the labor force is twice as much.
Yeah.
So now we've reached this race to the bottom where now the parents have to because there's so many companies take that. I mean, there's only so many companies floating around the economy.
I always step back from it and say things like this. Well, I don't know if you heard this, but McDonald's the other day stopped reporting their monthly sales. And they're closing 700 stores. And the question is, do you need another Best Buy? Do you need another Home Depot? Do you need another Walmart? You know what I mean? Like, is it really going to make a difference if the Walmart is 5 minutes away or 8 minutes away? You know? So we're kind of at this point where it's almost like a maximum saturation on so many things, and now we're entering like the reverse, where now people are like economizing everything. It's like, well, I'm not going to go to Best Buy, I'm going to go online. And instead of me getting a car, I live in the city, I have a smart car or one of those share rides, So this whole like hyper move towards like a recycling type of society is great from an environmental, financial sense in one way, but in the long run, like the self-driving cars, I don't know if you've read anything about this, but these self-driving cars, people aren't going to get rid of their cars, but they're not going to have 2 cars, and they certainly are not going to have 3. Now look, they're not going to replace the F-150 pickup trucks that everybody uses for farmers and stuff, but in all of these urban areas and stuff, you only use your car 4% of the time. The other 96% of the time, it's doing nothing. But what do you do when you go from selling 8 million cars a year to 4 million cars a year? And then what about, like, what does that do to steel, copper, all of the ingredients that go into it? Because now all these cars are going to come, the old cars are going to get recycled, and there's plenty of supply for the materials that go into it. Well, what's happening is there's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10 million people that are directly tied in the economy to transportation. Now, I'm not saying all the jobs are going to disappear, but they've already done the googly transfer. If you can get a truck onto an on-ramp and on a hot national highway, 90% of from point A to point B can be handled electronically with a Google car driver. The only thing they need the person who's driving the car for right now is to be like driving it through the alley and the back road and backing it up to the loading dock and things like that. Yeah, I mean, or maybe it's just they pull in or something, like some sort of redesign so that it's going to do that.
Self-driving trucks are, I don't know, I think they're actually really fast.
Well, what's going to happen is they're going to like stack each other like trains, and then we'll have like so all this environmental stuff that people are worried about. I'm like, you don't have anything to worry about. It's just like we replaced coal generation electricity with natural gas. And the U.S. met all the Kyoto Protocol Accords from 1992. Remember, we didn't sign on to it, and we were like committing. We're the only ones that met the goals because it's just by natural choice, natural gas being so cheap. But what are you going to do when like all 3 of us who live on the same block and share that pickup truck or something like that? And when you need it, I just push a button. I need to go to the dentist, and it shows up like a chauffeur. And what are the parking garages doing? You know what I mean? Like it's like think about that. What do you need a parking garage for? You hop out of the car, and the car goes picks up somebody else, and you tell it come back here at 2 o'clock, and it's right back. So they did some sort of thing. They figured in Manhattan, if they had these self-autonomous cars that could work this way, they can get the traffic pattern down to under 10,000 cars operating.
Oh, you'd be surprised about the ones in my neighborhood.
But the whole point is because it's like, how much of a cab's driving around? Oh, how about this? At any given moment in a major city, 25% of the time is spent looking for a parking spot. Like that's the crazy shit, right? Right. Right. But I mean, that's the weird stuff. You know, it's like, well, how much of your life are you going to spend at a red light? How much of your life you're going to spend? You know.
I drove here from Plano.
Okay.
It's a 7.5 hour
Is
drive.
it? Wow.
Could you imagine? 7.5 hours.
Oh, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Self-driving cars. Now I can work remotely.
Right.
Well,
Well, how about the better part? I hop in the stupid thing at 8 o'clock and go to sleep.
yeah.
You know, and all my travel, it's like, you know, and then no traffic problems, clean sailing. You don't have to worry about, you know, wrecks and stuff. Oh my God, it'd be the greatest. Yeah.
No, Monica told me flat out. She said, I don't, your kids are doing beautiful. I can't come.
Yeah, no, I mean, in D.C., the one thing you have to do is everything is about not how far is it, but what time you leave. Like, I just drove to Wilmington, North Carolina, and I left at 3 in the morning. Why? Because, well, when I leave D.C., I got to get through D.C. traffic, then I got to get through Richmond traffic, then I got to get past Virginia Beach traffic. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you might make one and avoid the traffic, but you got to keep forgetting that every couple hours you're going through another city, you know, on a 6 or 7 mile trip. So.
I saw you had an interesting exchange with Heck.
Who?
Heck.
Heck?
Heck. Joe Heck.
Oh, yeah. You want to know about that?
Yeah, I mean,
well, real simple. Essentially, the Symington Glenn Amendments that were passed in 1977 prevent the United States from giving any aid to a country that has an atomic weapons program. The United States knows since the 60s that Israel has atomic weapons, and they'll neither confirm nor deny it, because the moment any official does it, then all of the money would have to stop.
The State Department, like the last month or two, actually totally come out and say...
No, it looked like they did, but they didn't officially say it. There's like a report out saying this whole, we're building a nuclear reactor to do a desalinization plant was just a bullshit cover story, you know. But it's all by design, and you know. And again, look, we're knowingly breaking our own laws. Okay, what more do I have to show you? Look, you're in Congress. You went in. I don't care if you're reading the top secret documents. You have to leave there right then, and you have to say all aid must stop. You know. And then if you're making these exceptions, then what the hell is the good of having the law? So I mean, so we're only going to apply the law, but when it's something that we really don't like, we're just going to look the other way. You know? So I like pointing out the hypocrisy of it all. But the Israelis they have 5 Dolphin Class 2 electric diesel submarines that are supplied by the Germans. They have the 6th one that will come in the next year and a half, and those are going to be equipped with essentially what will be like Tomahawk atomic weapons that will be like a doomsday scenario. Because you know what, the Israelis need to get submarines to what? They're going to torpedo the Egyptian Navy. They're going to sink. You know, I mean, it makes absolutely no sense at all. But they're keeping them as like a doomsday. And then of course they busted the declassified documents have that the Israelis were trying to sell apartheid South Africa atomic weapons secrets. You know, I mean, like how much more do you need? Jimmy Carter tells you that they have them. You know, but nobody can be in the government and make those statements. You know? But this, you know, I was gonna, if I had more time, I'd have a lot of fun with him. But you know, like every person when you get elected, Israel, the APEC comes to you and says, "Look, you want a trip to Israel? Take care of you and your whole family. We want to show you what's going on." They pay like $20,000 to $25,000 to ship you and your family over there to brainwash you. And then these moments, they walk out of there like as if they're a bunch of invasion of the body snatcher. America has no greater friend than Israel. And I'm like, you've been to Canada? You know, where did this come from? You know, because that's the dialogue. And you know, of course, APEC is going to do that because as long as they spend a couple of $100 million on this, they're getting $4-something billion. I don't care if the stuff's recycled and they're buying, you know, our toxic waste with the $4 billion. It still doesn't make it right. But these rabbit holes are. You keep getting into this stuff, man, and it'll blow your brain away for how much is really going on below the surface. And of course, anybody that really starts to talk about it, they run into problems. I spoke to this guy's name, James Bamford, who's at the National Press Corps. He's a premier guy that's been writing about the NSA for 20 years. Okay. And he basically says the United States right now, the surveillance program that we put in place is equivalent to what he describes as a turnkey tyranny. If the government ever wanted to go rogue, we wanted to form a resistance to them in some way, shape, or form, we wouldn't be able to do it because of the way that they'd be able to connect all the social networks and stuff and communications. And this is what they warned about in the 1975 Church Commission hearings. So, that's why when people say stuff, I'm like, so let me get this straight. And you want to have it so that they can take guns away?
It's a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
But it's okay because the laws expired. So
Right.
we all know the NSA is
They're going to stop.
down the entire listening post.
No, and Clapper, remember when he lied, he didn't lie. He forgot. He forgot that we were doing metadata collection. Right. No, and how come nobody's prosecuting him?
Now, switch my legs for a bit.
And I had students that were about 45 when I was there. I covered a school of 115 people. We had 3 or 4 teachers in the whole school.
Nice to see you again.
You had something.
Just city council page, which is right down the street.
I know where that's at.
And then I have 2 crazy ideas I wanted to run by you. So I've been paying the Social Security for 20 years. What about an opt-out plan? Like, I want to reflect the annual Social Security like
I love what Bush tried to do. We have that option. I'd rather invest in myself and have that security. If I screwed up, that's part of being self-sufficient, independent. There's choices and consequences. If I make good choices, I have good consequences. If I make bad choices, and if I don't pay into it, that's my problem. But let me decide. At the end of the day, if I have to walk the streets and rely on my neighbor, then that's my problem. So that's what I like. Right? Let's be independent. And the more we find what the best way to take care of ourselves is learn to take care of others, and all of a sudden you start finding the rewards are so much better. At the end of the day, when you're in bad shape, you got a whole world to take care of. My children take care of. That's my parents. Because I raised that, it's just that value system. I'd rather have my children take care of me in some hospice program or something like this. Which I might raise up to 6 or 7 pounds if I get the career part. That kind of, it's just, it's not What do you got?
Nothing. My table left me there, and then my other table left me before that. People got up and left, so, just here to listen.
Here's my other case. So a lot of people, they want that free health care, right? Each health wants that. So we give veterans vouchers so they go to regular health care, and we let the people that want free health care go to the veterans.
Well, the VA is, see what's happening.
We let them go to the government.
That is our first Obamacare.
Yeah.
But people aren't about that.
That's government health care.
That's government health care. Fine. You can't have it now. If we get it in the private sector's hands, I think it's better managed. That's the reason we say, okay, we want to see how this is working. Imbalances, equity. It's a culture in the federal government. It's a culture to be able to just sit there and know that you're protected because you're a federal employee or a state employee or somewhere else. I was a director of public works for 7 years. I left because I couldn't fire somebody. Literally, you just could not fire somebody. The guy, I caught him, got his computer, got everything, watching porno on his computer. Wrote him up, did the process, did it again. Can't get rid of him.
Because on the unions, guess what? They'll come and sue you every direction you got. They'll come out there and spend more money.
You got an incentive to work when you got that kind of protection.
And here, guess what? He was the head of our parks and shouldn't that scare the hell out of somebody? You know, so, anyway. But that was either one of those bad ideas. But they're not crazy at all. Now, kind of ideas, give me an idea how to implement. That's really, it's kind of one like that. It can be a problem. There's no solution. The solution is, like that, we need to come up and continue to think about another solution. It's like the guy I met with this week on his tax plan. Hell, it's simple. It's just fabulous. Can you imagine what would happen if the lower income people understood that he was actually paying taxes? Actually, were cautious. So the guy that's paying $25,000, how sees he's paying taxes? He isn't in his way, but he gets all his write-offs. And he actually ends up with less income because of the way it's done. But if he could turn in 10%, we're actually getting more to the bottom line in the federal government, which are, and that's a sheer saving. You get to retain more money. That piss you off is, I like to hang on everything I got. I have a pretty good income.
Well, even educate people like at the hospital I work at, they give a 401k matching, so 4%. It's a 4% raise. And there's people that are working at the kids that don't do it.
You know what?
That's a 4% raise.
Yeah, let me tell you. And I had, at my peak, I had almost 300. We had a simple IRA, 401k. What we did is we would match dollar for dollar up to $8,000 a year. Up to $8,000 a year. You know how many people
got applications? You have applications for here?
Do you know how many employees we had that actually utilize that? 2 or 3 guys. The rest, $100 to $100. I'm thinking, I don't care. I'd borrow money to put in. I'd borrow it.
$8,000 raise.
It's like my daughter when my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter, my oldest daughter was just going into high school. I made a deal, says, you know, save him boys on it, all this other stuff. And I said, she says, I'll let you see what. And I said, you want to bet on that? She says, yeah, I'll bet you on that. So I said, well, I'll bet you $2,000 that you don't, that you do. She says, I'll bet you. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. Let's get better. For high school. This is through high school. You never kiss a boy through high school. You won't do it. If you never do it, I'll pay you $4,000. If you kiss a boy, you won't do it. She says, you're wrong. So my little 10-year-old, she says to me, I want that down here. I said, you don't want to do that, honey. Yes, I do. I want to be part of that. I said, you want to wait until you're, no, I want to do that. So both these girls went through high school. Never kissed a boy. And both of them.
I'm glad you told us that $2.
I'm telling you, and it was funny is because my oldest went through the process, just kind of took the money, you know, My youngest was in this process, 5'9", 5'10", blonde hair, blue eyes, and I mean, the boys were always around our house hanging out and stuff. That scared the hell out of me too, but I asked her, I said, how did you buy them? Oh, this kid's asked me out. Went on dates. Not kiss me. You had to kiss me. She said, no, Dad, I didn't. I said, why didn't you? She says, do I look stupid? No. What do you mean? She says, Dad, that's not $2,000 I owed you. That's a $6,000 loss. And I said, what do you mean? She says, well, I would have lost the $4,000 you were going to give me plus the $2,000 I had to give you. That's a $6,000 turnaround. So, that's more than you think. So, she graduated from college. Also, she was fair. She graduated high school at 16. She went to college. She graduated college before she was 20. Taught her first year of school when she was 21. Before she was 21. College? Yeah, she was swimming in water.
Actually, talking about the 401k reminds me of another thing. Is it law that you can't have like CDs in 401k, like the FDIC can sue against you?
Because if they say it's CD, if you put it in there, and say now you're pretty young, you can't touch that money until you're 59 without penalty. So a CD usually only is 10 or 3 or 5. So if it lapses, how do you get it out? Unless you drop it. So cash it out, put it right back in, otherwise you lose it.
But I agree with 401ks. I agree with defined contributions. But there's nothing. You're still gambling in
Oh yeah,
in the market with your retirement.
You're gambling, but
Because
government just still wants
they won't
it.
let you have a savings account to do a 401k. You can't even do it like a savings
I don't
account.
know how the process. I just assume be able to invest more money in anything.
Yeah.
As a business guy, though, I do like the fact that I have mine in a kind of a 401k, because in a business, everyone wants to sue you for everything. They can never come, even the banks, if you have a challenge, they can't go after your retirement. So that's one thing I do like.
But I love that. I do that portion because I get that 4% match from work. So I'm committed to the market. And what limited options my company chooses to let me invest. None of them are a bank account.
4% still something. It's not, but like I said,
As long as it doesn't get wiped out.
we wanted to invest in our employees. We were shocked.
Yeah.
You know how many of them? This is the other thing. We have health insurance for our employees. All these years we had health insurance. Do you know how many young guys under the age of 30? This is just my own little statistic. I'd say about 95% would rather take the money and give the option. Insurance, and they'd take the money. $290 rather than health insurance. That was one broken leg. Anyway, I'm going to run, gentlemen. Thanks for coming. Get young, continue to move forward. Live life's experience.
Very interesting stuff. I'm at like the very front. So like ballet, like where people are pulling in. So I'm just from the museum. Like, hold on. I'm kind of like walking around the building right now. Not like inside, like around the perimeter. Yeah. It's got. I'm actually not sure. I can now. I just. I'm like right in front of the MGM. How you guys doing? I'm gonna call him right now. I'm gonna call right here. He wants me to drive to him. Alright, he said he was by, like, I talked to him like a few seconds ago. He was by New York, so I'm gonna call him right now. Couldn't see where he's at. Let's see. A lot of interesting stuff. He technically paid both of his daughters not to kiss walls throughout high school. Paid $4,000. Holy shit. Wow. Dad? Yeah, where are you at? Okay, is that in front of the MGM? Or is that in front of like Hooters? I'm like right outside. Like I'm in the parking lot, like across the Callaway. Okay. You want us to go there? Tropicana, like facing the MGM. I'm gonna park out there.